My daughter sold my house while I was in the hospital, but life taught her the hardest lesson. I never thought the person I'd die for would be the one to bury me while I was still breathing. They say a mother's love is unconditional, and it is. But what they don't tell you is that sometimes that love becomes a blindfold. I trusted her with everything. My home, my heart, my final wishes. And she took it all while my body lay broken in a hospital bed, fighting to come back to her. But life doesn't let betrayal go unanswered. And this story? It's about the day I learned that even your own blood can sell you for silver. Welcome, my dear. This is Grandma Alice Stories, where every tale carries a lesson and every wound carries wisdom. Sit close, pour yourself some tea, and settle in, because today's story is one that still makes my hands tremble when I tell it. It's about trust, about family, and about the moment I realized that love, no matter how deep, can't always protect you from greed. It was a Tuesday morning when my chest started to feel like someone had wrapped iron chains around it. I was in the garden, my sanctuary, tending to the roses my late husband, Gerald, had planted 30 years ago. The sun was warm on my back, and the earth smelled like rain and memory. I remember thinking how peaceful everything felt, how blessed I was to still be able to kneel in the dirt at 73 and feel alive. Then the pain hit. Suddenly, like a fist squeezing my heart from the inside. I gasped, clutching my chest, dirt still under my fingernails. The world tilted. The roses blurred. And the last thing I remember before everything went black was thinking, not yet. Please, God, not yet, . When I woke up, I was in a hospital room that smelled of disinfectant and fear. Tubes ran from my arms. Machines beeped around me like mechanical heartbeats. My daughter, Claire, sat beside me, her face pale and tight with worry. "Mama," she whispered, taking my hand. "You scared me so bad." I tried to smile, but even that hurt. "I'm still here, baby," I said, my voice hoarse. "I'm still here." The doctor came in later that afternoon, a young man with kind eyes and a serious mouth. He told me I'd had a heart attack. A bad one. That I'd need surgery, rest, and time. Lots of time. He said the words gently, but I heard what he didn't say. You almost died. And you still might. Claire stayed with me every day after that. She brought me soup I couldn't eat and magazines I couldn't focus on. She held my hand during the long, silent nights when the fear crept in and made me wonder if I'd ever see my garden again. And I loved her for it. I loved her so much it ached worse than my heart ever could. One evening, about a week into my stay, she came in with a folder tucked under her arm. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying. "Mama," she said softly, sitting on the edge of my bed. "We need to talk about something." I frowned. "What is it, sweetheart?" She opened the folder and pulled out some papers. Legal papers. I could see the dense blocks of text, the official letterhead. My vision was still blurry from the medication, but I could make out enough. "It's just a precaution," she said quickly, her voice trembling. In case something happens. The house, your accounts, everything needs to be in order. The lawyer said it's better to have it all signed now while you're still." She stopped herself, her lip quivering. "While you're still able to." My heart, the one barely holding itself together, clenched. "Claire, honey, I'm not dying." "I know, Mama. I know." She wiped her eyes. "But we have to be smart. You're all I have, and I can't lose you and then have to deal with legal battles on top of it. Please, just sign it. For me." I looked at her face. My little girl. The baby I'd rocked to sleep every night after her father passed. The teenager I'd worked 2 jobs to put through college. The woman I'd helped through her divorce, holding her while she sobbed into my shoulder. How could I say no? So I signed every page she put in front of me, my hand shaking from weakness and trust. She kissed my forehead when I finished. "Thank you, Mama," she whispered. "You're doing the right thing." I believed her. The surgery came 2 days later. They wheeled me into a room so cold and bright it felt like I was being swallowed by light. The anesthesiologist told me to count backward from 10. I made it to 7 before the world dissolved. When I woke up, I was alive. Sore. Stitched. But alive. Claire wasn't there. I asked the nurse about her. She said my daughter had left shortly after the surgery ended, once the doctor confirmed I was stable. She said she'd be back tomorrow, the nurse added with a smile. But tomorrow came, and Claire didn't. I told myself she was just tired. Overwhelmed. She'd been by my side for so long, of course she needed a break. I tried calling her phone. No answer. I left voicemails. Sent texts with shaky, medicated fingers. Nothing. 3 days passed. Then a week. The nurses started giving me sympathetic looks. The doctor asked gently if there was anyone else I could call. I said no. Claire was all I had. My son had died years ago in a car accident. My siblings were gone. My husband, long buried. It was just me and her. And she had vanished. Finally, after 2.5 weeks in that sterile, lonely room, the hospital discharged me. A social worker helped arrange transportation since Claire never answered my calls about picking me up. I sat in the back of a taxi, my chest still bandaged, my heart somehow more broken than it had been before the attack. When the cab pulled up to my house, the house Gerald built with his own hands, where I'd raised my children, buried pets, celebrated birthdays, and mourned losses, I froze. There was a car in the driveway. Not Claire's. A sleek black SUV I didn't recognize. And on the porch, laughing and chatting like they owned the place, were 2 strangers, a young couple holding boxes and smiling at each other. I paid the driver with trembling hands and slowly walked toward the porch, my legs weak and my mind racing. "Excuse me," I said, my voice small and confused. "Can I help you?" The man turned to me, his smile polite but puzzled. "Oh, hi. Are you a neighbor?" I blinked. "I live here. This is my house." The woman's face shifted. Uncomfortable. She glanced at her husband, then back at me. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we just bought this place. We closed on it last week." The world stopped. "What?" I whispered. "Yeah," the man said, pulling out his phone to show me something. Documents, contracts, I couldn't focus. "We bought it from the owner's daughter. Claire, I think her name was? She said her mother had passed and she needed to sell quickly." I couldn't breathe. Sell quickly. My legs gave out. I collapsed onto the porch steps, my chest screaming in pain, my mind shattering into 1,000 pieces. "Ma'am, are you okay?" The woman rushed toward me, but I couldn't hear her anymore. All I could hear was my own voice, repeating the same words over and over in my head. She sold it. She sold my house. While I was dying. That night, sitting on the cold concrete of what used to be my front porch, I finally understood the cruelest truth a mother can learn. Sometimes, the child you would die for is the one who wishes you already had. And somewhere out there, Claire was counting the money she'd made from my life. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know, was that I'd learned long ago to protect myself from wolves. Even the ones who called me Mama. They say shock can kill you faster than any disease. And sitting on that porch, staring at strangers who now owned the walls that held my entire life, I understood why. My daughter hadn't just sold my house, she'd erased me. While I fought to survive in that hospital bed, she was already spending my death money, celebrating a funeral that hadn't happened yet. But here's what greed does. It makes you blind. It makes you sloppy. And it makes you forget that a mother who survives poverty, widowhood, and heartbreak doesn't do so by being foolish. The young couple, Mark and Jessica, they said their names were, helped me to their car. They drove me to a nearby motel, paid for 3 nights, and kept apologizing like it was somehow their fault. Sweet kids. Naive but sweet. They had no idea they'd bought a house that was about to become the center of a legal storm. I sat on the edge of that motel bed, staring at the peeling wallpaper, and felt something I hadn't felt in years, rage. Not the hot, explosive kind. The cold, calculating kind. The kind that waits. The kind that plans. My phone sat on the nightstand, silent and mocking. 23 missed calls to Claire. 23 times my own daughter had ignored me. I picked it up one more time and dialed. This time, she answered. "What?" Her voice was sharp, annoyed. Like I was bothering her. "Claire." My voice was steady, though my hands shook. Where are you? Silence. Then, why does it matter? Because I just came home from the hospital to find strangers living in my house. I heard her breath catch. She hadn't expected me to survive, to be discharged, to come home. I could picture her face, that moment of panic before the lies started forming. Mama, she said slowly, and I could hear her composing herself, building her defense. I can explain. You sold my house. You were dying, she snapped, and there it was, the truth beneath the pretense. The doctors said you might not make it through surgery. I had bills, Mama. Your hospital bills. I had to. You had to wait until I was dead? My voice cracked despite myself. You couldn't wait for my heart to stop before you cashed in? Don't be dramatic. Her tone turned cold, businesslike. You signed the papers. You gave me power of attorney. Legally, I had every right. I trusted you. And I did what needed to be done. She sighed, like I was a child who didn't understand practical matters. Look, there's money left over. I'll send you some. You can get an apartment or something. But the house was too much for you anyway. You're old, Mama. You can't maintain a property like that anymore. I closed my eyes. Counted to 10 like Gerald used to teach me when anger threatened to swallow me whole. Where are you, Claire? That's none of your business anymore. Are you with him? That new boyfriend of yours? Another silence. Longer this time. His name is Derek, she said finally. And yes, we're in Florida. We bought a condo with... She stopped. With my house money, I finished for her. With my inheritance, she corrected. You would have left it to me anyway. I just accelerated the timeline. Something inside me cracked. Not broke. I'd been broken before and survived. This was different. This was the final thread of maternal illusions snapping clean. I hope it was worth it, I whispered. Oh, don't be so melodramatic. You'll be fine. You're a survivor, remember? You've always told me that. Her voice dripped with mockery now, all pretense of daughterly affection gone. Survive this too. She hung up. I sat there in that motel room, holding a dead phone, and let myself cry. Not for long. I didn't have the luxury of falling apart. But for 5 minutes, I let the tears come. For the daughter I thought I had. For the trust I'd given so freely. For the home that was no longer mine. Then I dried my eyes, pulled out my wallet, and found the card I'd kept there for 30 years. Harrison and Associates, Estate Law. Samuel Harrison had been Gerald's attorney and mine since 1995. A kind man with silver hair and a sharp mind. He'd helped us draft our wills after Gerald's first heart scare. He'd held my hand at Gerald's funeral. And he'd made me a promise I'd never thought I'd need to keep. Alice, he'd said back then, you're a trusting woman. And that's beautiful. But trust can be dangerous. Let me protect you, just in case. Just in case my children ever became strangers. Just in case love turned to greed. Just in case. I dialed his number with shaking fingers. He answered on the second ring. Harrison and Associates. Samuel, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. It's Alice Morgan. I need you to tell me that the will we drafted in 1995 is still valid. The pause. Then, Alice? My God, I heard you'd been ill. Are you all right? No, I said simply. But I will be. Is the will still valid? Every word of it. We updated it in 2010, remember? After your son passed. It's ironclad. His voice shifted, professional and concerned. What's happened? I told him everything. The hospital. The papers Claire brought. The house sale. The strangers on my porch. Her voice on the phone, cold and entitled. When I finished, there was a long silence. That manipulative little... He caught himself. I'm sorry, Alice. I know she's your daughter. So did I said quietly. Until today. She doesn't know about the will, does she? No. I never told her. You said it was better to keep it private. And thank God you listened. I could hear papers rustling. Alice, the power of attorney she had you sign only covered medical decisions and bill payments. It did not grant her authority to sell property. Not while you're alive and competent. That sale is illegal. My heart, weak and bandaged as it was, suddenly felt stronger. Can we stop it? We can do better than stop it. We can reverse it, sue for fraud, and ensure she never sees a penny of your estate. He paused. But Alice, are you sure? She's your daughter. This will destroy your relationship with her. I thought about that for exactly 3 seconds. She destroyed it first, I said, when she sold my life while I was still living it. Then we move forward. I'll file an emergency motion first thing tomorrow morning. Can you meet me at my office at 9? I'll be there. And Alice? One more thing. Yes. That 1995 will you ask about? The one that leaves everything to the local women's shelter and the community hospital. I could hear the smile in his voice. It specifically names your daughter as receiving exactly $1, and only if she's present at the reading to receive it in person. For the first time in 2 weeks, I laughed. It was a broken, bitter sound, but it was real. Gerald's idea, I said softly. He always knew she had her father's temper and her grandmother's greed. Wise man, your husband. Rest tonight, Alice. Tomorrow we will start taking your life back. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in that motel bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the daughter I'd raised and the stranger she'd become. I thought about Gerald, and how he'd warned me years ago, love her, Alice. But don't be blind to who she's becoming. I'd been blind. Willfully, desperately blind. But not anymore. By dawn, I'd made my peace with what was coming. Not forgiveness, I wasn't holy enough for that yet. But acceptance. She'd made her choice. Now she'd live with the consequences. I showered, dressed in the same clothes I'd worn home from the hospital, and called a cab to Samuel's office. When I walked through his door at 8:55 a.m., he stood and embraced me like the father I'd lost decades ago. Let's get your house back, he said. And that's exactly what we did. The legal papers were filed by noon. The emergency injunction was granted by 3. By 5 o'clock that evening, Mark and Jessica received official notice that their sale was fraudulent and void. And somewhere in Florida, in a condo bought with blood money, my daughter's phone began to ring with calls from her lawyer, her realtor, and her very angry boyfriend who just realized his down payment was about to disappear. But I didn't know that yet. All I knew was that for the first time since I'd signed those papers in my hospital bed, I could breathe again. Justice, I was learning, tastes a lot like oxygen when you've been drowning. There's a specific kind of silence that comes before a storm. It's not peaceful, it's loaded, heavy. Like the air itself is holding its breath, waiting for lightning to strike. That's what the next 2 weeks felt like. I was back in my house, but Claire didn't know it yet. The legal machine was grinding, slow and thorough, and I was learning that patience, when paired with justice, becomes the sharpest weapon a woman can wield. My daughter thought she'd won. But she'd forgotten the most important rule. You don't count your inheritance while your mother's heart is still beating. The court moved faster than I expected. Samuel said it was because the evidence was so clear, so blatantly fraudulent, that even the most overworked judge couldn't ignore it. Claire had forged documents, lied to the buyers, and sold property she had no legal right to touch. Within 10 days, the sale was nullified. Mark and Jessica got their money back, plus damages. And I got my house back. But getting my house back was only the beginning. Samuel sat across from me in my kitchen where I belonged, with a stack of documents spread between us like battle plans. She's going to call you, he said gently. When reality hits her. When she realizes she has to return the money and that Derek's probably going to leave her. She's going to call and she's going to beg. I sipped my tea, feeling the warmth spread through me. The rose bushes outside my window swayed in the breeze, still alive, still blooming. Just like me. Let her call, I said quietly. And when she does, what will you say? I looked at him, this kind man who'd protected me when my own blood wouldn't. I'll say what needs to be said. No more. No less. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. There's one more thing, Alice. The will. I know. She's going to find out about it eventually. When you... He stopped himself, the words too difficult. When I die, I finished for him. It's okay, Samuel. I'm not afraid of the word anymore. I almost did it once already. The will states that she receives $1. Nothing more. Everything else goes to charity, the women's shelter, the hospital, the community center. Are you certain you want to keep it that way? I thought about my daughter. About the little girl who used to bring me dandelions from the yard. About the teenager who'd sobbed in my arms after her first heartbreak. About the woman who'd sold my house while I fought for my life. I'm certain, I said. She made her choice. This is mine. 3 days later, my phone rang at 2 in the morning. I knew before I answered. Some part of me had been waiting for this call, dreading it and needing it in equal measure. Mama. Her voice was wrecked. Crying. Desperate. Mama, please. I need your help. I sat up in bed, turned on the lamp, and waited. They took everything, she sobbed. The condo's gone. Derek left me. He says I'm a thief and a liar. The bank froze my accounts. I don't have anywhere to go. Mama, please. I'm your daughter. You have to help me. Do I? My voice was calm. Too calm. What? Do I have to help you, Claire? Is that what mothers have to do? Even when their daughters sell their homes while they're dying in a hospital. Silence. Then, I thought you weren't going to make it. I panicked. I made a mistake. You made a choice. I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the garden Gerald planted. You didn't panic, sweetheart. You planned. You brought papers to my hospital bed. You waited until I was at my weakest. You told those buyers I was dead. That wasn't panic. That was greed. I'm sorry, she wailed. I'm so sorry, Mama. I was stupid. I was selfish. But I'm still your daughter. Doesn't that mean anything? It meant everything, I said softly. For 73 years, it meant everything. I would have died for you, Claire. Almost did. But you know what? While I was lying in that hospital bed, praying to God to let me live long enough to see you one more time, you were already measuring my coffin. That's not fair. Fair. I laughed, and it was a sound I didn't recognize. You want to talk about fair? Let me tell you what's fair. You get to live with what you did. You get to look in the mirror every morning and know that you tried to bury your mother alive. You get to carry that for the rest of your life. So that's it. Her voice turned hard, bitter. You're just going to abandon me? After everything you taught me about family and forgiveness. I taught you about love too, I said. But you sold that along with my house. I need money, Mama. Just enough to get back on my feet. A few thousand. You have it. The house is paid off. No. What? No. I said it again, stronger this time. I don't have money to give you, Claire. I have medical bills. I have a heart that barely works. I have a house I almost lost because my own daughter valued cash more than my life. But I don't have money for you. You're really going to let me be homeless? Your own child. You were willing to make me homeless. Your own mother. I heard her breath catch. Then, I hate you. No, you don't, I said quietly. You hate yourself. And you should. I hung up before she could respond. And then I sat on my bed and cried. Not for her, not anymore. But for the little girl she used to be. The one who died somewhere along the way, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. 6 months passed. My heart healed slowly, both the physical one and the other kind. Physical therapy helped me get strong again. The garden bloomed. I made new friends at the community center where I started volunteering. Claire called twice more. Once to tell me she was moving in with a friend in Texas. Once to ask very carefully about my health. I kept both conversations short and polite. She was my daughter, and I'd always loved the memory of who she was. But I couldn't trust the person she'd become. Then, on a Tuesday morning in spring, Samuel called. Alice, I need you to come to my office. There's something you should know. Is it Claire? In a way. Just come in. Please. When I arrived, Samuel's face was serious, but his eyes held something else. Something like satisfaction. She hired a lawyer, he said, sliding a document across his desk. She's contesting your will. I stared at the papers. She doesn't even know what's in it. She does now. Her lawyer did some digging. They found out about the $1 inheritance. He smiled grimly. She's claiming you weren't of sound mind when you drafted it, that you were coerced, that she deserves her rightful inheritance as your only surviving child. I should have been angry or hurt, but instead I felt something unexpected, relief. Good, I said. Samuel blinked. Good. Good. Let her fight it. Let her spend whatever money she has left on lawyers. Let her stand in front of a judge and explain why she deserves to inherit from a mother she tried to rob while she was dying. I met his eyes. And when she loses, because she will lose, won't she, Samuel? Absolutely. The will is ironclad. Her case is frivolous at best. When she loses, I continued, maybe she'll finally understand that some things can't be stolen. Not dignity, not peace, and not a mother's final word. The hearing was set for 3 months later. I attended, dressed in my Sunday best, my heart strong and my head high. Claire sat across the courtroom with her lawyer, thinner than I remembered, harder around the eyes. She wouldn't look at me. The judge reviewed the case, listened to her lawyer's arguments about undue influence and mental incompetence, and then asked me directly, Mrs. Morgan, were you of sound mind when you drafted this will? Yes, Your Honor. And do you stand by your decision to leave your estate to charity rather than your daughter? I looked at Claire then. Really looked at her. And I saw what I needed to see. Nothing. No remorse. No shame. Just entitlement and anger. Yes, Your Honor, I said clearly. I stand by every word. The judge ruled in my favor. Claire's case was dismissed. She'd have to pay court costs. As I walked out of that courtroom, I heard her voice behind me. Was it worth it, Mama? Was your pride worth losing me? I stopped, turned, and for the last time, I spoke to my daughter as her mother. I didn't lose you, Claire. You lost yourself. The day you decided I was worth more dead than alive. That was 2 years ago. I'm 75 now. My heart still beats, stubborn and strong. The garden is fuller than ever. And every morning, I wake up in the house Gerald built, surrounded by memories that no one could sell. I don't know where Claire is now. I don't ask. But I sleep well at night, knowing that I taught her the most important lesson a mother can teach, that love without respect is just manipulation. And that greed, in the end, always costs more than it pays. Some people say I was too harsh, that I should have forgiven her. Maybe they're right. But I've learned that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. And it certainly doesn't mean funding the lifestyle of someone who valued your death more than your life. I'm at peace now. And that, my dear ones, is worth more than any inheritance. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Grandma Alice Stories so you never miss a lesson life has to teach. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? How did you find your way back to peace? I read every single one, and your stories matter to me. Remember, my dears, family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up when you're bleeding. Until next time, keep your heart soft, but your boundaries strong. With love and wisdom, Grandma Alice. Subscribe for more stories of resilience, revenge, and redemption. Comment your thoughts. I'm listening. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Because every story deserves to be told. And every lesson deserves to be learned.